I'm listening to Master Yao, Master Morris. Okay, so just so you understand, the power, as we're going to be talking about today, as they say, Sat Nam is the highest truth. Okay, I'm going to explain to you what all of that really means, because very clearly the highest power is the force of creation. Okay, so the second time that I ran into this, and just give me a moment here. I just got to shake myself out. I got to prove mermaids now. This is not just like, but this is an important key. But give me a moment on this. So the second time I come into this, I'm listening to Master Yao. And as I said to you before, all of these other powers about manifestation, they're only 25% tops of the power. So let me clarify this. These manifestation techniques that are being taught, such as The Secret and these kind of things like visualizing what you want, they will always still be, if you wanted to give it a number, only about 25% as powerful as Tantra, or what is known as, let's say, sex magic. Okay? This is Kundalini orgasmic creation force. Okay? And I'm being I'm being super generous when I say 25%. Okay? This power manifests, and we're going to get into this piece by piece. I just got to find my way into this. So the reason why I'm listening to Master Yao, because somebody had texted me, because we were on the show and someone asked me about Tantra energy, something like that, men's sexual energy, something. And the only recommendation that I could really give the brother was to listen to Master Yao and to understand that we have this force, but this force is also very dangerous. And that what he does is he at least has figured out how a male and a female can utilize these powers harmonically with themselves as couples. He doesn't teach singles. We also know that there's another person that's known as the Tantric Mongoose who also has this power. And this power even allows him to basically throw women into an orgasm by just looking at them, right? Because his auric field is massive around his body. We also know in the East that this is known, that when you cultivate the energetic field around your body, you're actually able to interact with other people's energetic field when they're around you, because your energetic field is massively developed. And the way that field develops is through the tantric principles, which is basically, whether it's through breathing and beginning to structure or build your consciousness, there's a force that is actually building up inside of you that is beginning to formulate and create something, or i.e. build a tower. Okay, so let me try to clarify this once again, go at this another angle. I remembered Master Yao about this guy's situation, so I told him about it, and then he sent us a text through intercom and said, or another guy that was listening sent us a text through intercom and said, hey, I've done some interviews with Master Yao, check them out. And I hadn't heard these interviews yet. So I'm listening to this interview and I'm kind of skipping through it. I'm actually in the shower. I'm just trying to get all my knowledge in, it's only 24 hours in a day. So I'm listening, and he starts going on about this negative, this mermaid cult. Okay. He basically explains that about 15% of the women on the planet are from a mermaid clan, or are mermaids. And they are the only ones that actually still have the ability to charge males. Okay? So he's explaining that basically that on the highest levels, we're not talking about the petty stuff, the PlayStation, Facebook, Instagram. We're not talking about this stuff. We're talking about other worlds here now. We're just on the real setting of things. The way the male and the female is actually configured, the male is initiated into a certain level of power through the female. But the female has to understand how to utilize or how to activate that power within herself. And she kind of serves as like a launch pad for a male going into a space that she's basically sending him into. And with these two together doing this, they can not only manifest infinitely, they can also seem to communicate with other vast states of consciousness because they're putting themselves into the same design of those consciousness. And the reason why we generally by ourselves cannot actually communicate is because we have a dualistic framework. We actually speak good, evil. When these beings, they don't communicate in that tongue, they speak unity. And so when a man and a woman are unified, they actually activate a certain energy that gives them the thrust to get into these spaces. And then in that space, that's actually where they're able to interface and interact. Now, why do we know that? Well, not only is it all over the ancient teachings, but we have to turn it 180 degrees for a moment because sometimes we're living in those kind of worlds to see it and how it kind of is playing out in our reality today to confirm it. We know that the last esoteric revival happening in the Western world ended with the revelations of Aleister Crowley. Okay, now just very, very clear. As far as Western occultism is concerned, which is the Society of Magicians in New York, which was started by Houdini, and then also all Freemasonic lodges, mainly the accepted lodges that have an allegiance to the king, all Rosicrucian lodges. And as you know, Rudolf Steiner was the mentor to Adolf Hitler. So, and we also know the Brotherhood of Hong, 888. So, which is also a triad. So all across the world, there's an occult group of, if you want to say, sorcerers. And their grandest revelation of spiritual power centers around what we know to be dark Tantra. Okay, so this is in conclusion of Aleister Crowley, OTO, McGregor Mathers, Madame Blavatsky's, all of their work. They introduced the Western world to something they discovered in the East, which was called Tantra. But there's different kinds of Tantra. So obviously there's a way to use Tantra in a distorted way. And this is what you're kind of seeing in the world. This is why you can't really turn TV on without getting a booty at you right now. It's like, this is the maximization of the creative force, but inverted. It's just using it externally. Okay? So when we investigate, we find that inside of Freemasonry that there are two ladders, right? One ladder is kind of for the person who wants to do business. The other ladder is for the person who actually wants to learn occult stuff or get into the occult. Once they take the occult ladder, they immediately go into the whole OTO and the Golden Dawn initiate system. Okay? So since the books were published, we know that in the end, what Crowley was doing is dark Tantra, and he had connected with the same beings that even Hitler had connected with, also known as the Green Gloves, and they taught them this dark art Tantra stuff. Okay? But still, Tantra is the highest power. So let me show you how this works. In the East, we now come to a word that seems to guide most people's consciousness in a negative direction known as Satan. And it almost seems like Satan is synonymous for sex. And here's why. Not only do we think that Saturn is the number 6 and 6 is sex, we also have these two events that happen in biblical tradition, and these two major events seem to control the whole outcome of both of the esoteric and exoteric traditions, and they both involve sex. One of them is the one that I just showed you before, the giants having sexual relations with the women. That's more of the archaic and ancient stuff. Most people don't know what became of that, right? They just know that those spirits still live on the earth today as far as occultism is concerned, right? And then we have another situation, which is Adam and Eve in the garden, right? And them coming together and then creating Cain. So they also have sex, and God's like, yo, who taught you how to have sex? And then also when you go to church, if you want to just take this into just a classical context, when you go to church, clearly it seems like sex is a part of what Satan has going on, okay? So now do you see how we have the first step of correlating why people began to relate Satan to sex? And then since sex is bad, because to create things is bad, which is that's symbolically saying, Satan, who is sexual is bad. Okay, just follow me here on what's going on, because I'm going to show you how all the creative force was taken from the those that are not initiated in the world. They will always be using, at best, a system that works 25%, which most don't even know that system. That's like projecting, for vision boards, those kind of things, right? But as far as the highest truth, they would never come to the highest truth, because the highest truth has been brought to them as something demonic and devilish, but with a reason. It's not even like you can really argue about this, because this is where it's all like a mature realm. It's an adept realm.